Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world right now. I'm Marnik van den Broek, and thank you. I am super grateful that you decided to tune in to this video. And what we're going to talk about in this video is asking questions, interacting with your audience. Doesn't matter if it's a meeting, it's a sales pitch, it's a keynote at a big conference. You would like to interact with your audience because you want to get them engaged. And interaction is one of the easiest, most straightforward ways to do that. But what is a good interaction? What is a good question in a meeting? How do you pose it, and how do you make sure that it actually adds value to your story? Well, that's the thing we're going to talk about in this video. And the good news is, and I'm not overselling it or downsizing the complexity, but we don't have to make it harder than it is. The easiest way to do that is to ask yourself two questions before you ask your question. And if you answer those two questions right, you can be pretty sure that you got yourself a solid interaction. So let's find out what those two questions are that will make sure that you will never ask an awkward question again. Let's take the show on the road. Let's go.
Are you listening? Damn.
Because what's the big thing with storytelling in any form is that we're telling a story that isn't necessarily about us, but we're telling a story where the audience can recognize their own story in the thing that they're hearing. The more they recognize themselves in the thing that you're saying, the more they feel engaged, the more they feel that what they're hearing is about them. The more it's about them, the more they like it, they trust it, they will give you attention. That's basically the idea. We made a lot of videos about that, but that's the main idea of storytelling. No matter if it's a sales pitch, business meeting, talk about your weekend with a friend, keynote at a conference, doesn't matter, it's all the same. But how do you do that? Well, there are different ways that we're going to talk about in future videos, but one of the main things, like I just said, is interaction, is just asking questions to your audience. Is it one person? Is it 5,000 people? It doesn't matter. The thing I see a lot, and I don't know if you're doing it, but when I attend conferences or I'm in meetings and people are trying to interact with their audience, you get silly questions. And sometimes people say there are no silly questions, there are only dumb answers, but there are awkward questions, trust me. Why are they awkward? Because either they haven't read their audience or they heard somewhere in a YouTube video that they have to interact with their audience, but they're not entirely sure, why am I interacting and what do I want to get out of the interaction? And then you get, let me exaggerate this, then you get a conference, for example, where there is a group of basketball players. And the speaker learned somewhere that you have to engage your audience and interact and ask questions. And they say, who here knows LeBron James? And then you might get some hands, you might get some people, yeah, I know LeBron James, but everybody's like, why are you asking us this? Because of course we know, we're all basketball players. And it gets this awkward feeling, same with business events. There's all the people running e-commerce shops. They're all in the e-commerce industry. And then the first question you hear is, who here has an e-commerce web shop? Who's running an online business? Same deal. A lot of people looking awkward at the speaker. What the hell is going on? You see the same thing in meetings or when people are starting an investment or sales pitch. Now, these are stupid examples, but just to show you that those are the type of questions that I often see, but they don't get the necessary response. It's awkward. People freeze up. The audience doesn't know why these questions are asked. They're not willing to answer any future questions, and the whole thing goes off the rails. Exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Now, how do you ask questions? How do you interact with your audience in the right way? I told you in the beginning of this video, you need to ask yourself two questions up front. The first question is, what is the experience or the lesson here that you want your audience to get? Because that is the main idea of asking questions and interacting with an audience. You ask them something that they need to think about or that offers them a sort of experience in their head because they have to resonate with themselves before answering. Is it a hand? Is it actually saying something? And what that does is it gives the audience the opportunity to think about it or experience them themselves. And you need to ask, if I ask this question that you prepare, this interaction, does it give the audience a solid experience or a moment to actually genuinely think about the point you're trying to make? To give you an simple idea of the first one is, I sometimes start my keynotes by asking, how much is 2 plus 2? And then people are like, yeah, it's 4. Super simple. Sometimes you get a funny person that says it's 6. You always have those. But 2 plus 2 is 4. And I asked them, did you think about it? Did you actually put in the effort? And most people shake their head like, no, the 2 plus 2 is very, very easy. And then I give them a harder exercise, like for example, 17 times 34. And I asked the whole group to think about it. And then people will start thinking like, can I get the answer? And then there was always someone, sometimes it go fast, sometimes it go slow, but there's always someone who finds the solution and yay, applause, great that you found it. But it's not the point of the exercise. The point is the question that follows. Who here, when I asked the question 17 times 34, was like, Marnik, I'm not even gonna bother. Someone else will solve this for me. And everywhere I go in the world, more than 60% of the people will raise their hand, start laughing, and admit I didn't even bother. I just was waiting for someone else to do it because it's too hard. I don't want to put in the effort. I'm not great at calculating. And that's also what happens with change when we get confronted with something that's out of our comfort zone, that we don't know, that is hard, our brain wants to tap out. Or for most people, our brain wants to tap out. And what you now did with an interaction like that is you got people to think about it, to experience it on the spot, that they have a resistance to things that are hard or new or out of their comfort zone. Just an example. The second one you need to ask yourself is, okay, if they experience it, if they are forced by my interaction to think about the point I'm trying to make in my story, is the answer that I will get after they thought about it, after they did something, is the answer going to add value to me as a storyteller, to me as a speaker, to me as a presenter, as a pitcher? Do I get something out of it? Do I get content, material that I can use in my story? Or in the future, but preferably in this story? Does it add value? If no, rethink the question, rethink the interaction. Could also be that the interaction is just fun, but let's say we actually want to learn something about it. Does it add value? If yes, that's a good question, because you can use it in your future story and you just became smarter during your story, during your presentation. Let me give you an example. If you go to, let's say, you're in a meeting, and you're going to talk about food and the love for food. And there's all these different type of people that are in the food industry. The stupid question would be, like I gave the LeBron example, would be like, who likes food? Who likes to eat? Who likes to cook? Well, it's presumably, if you did your preparation right, everybody. A good question would be on the second part, the adding value part, is you ask the question, who here has sushi as their favorite food? Who here, for example, eats sushi at least 2 times a month? And people will raise their hands. Not everybody, because not everybody that likes food likes sushi or treats it as their favorite food. Now, this could add value to, because now you know the hardcore sushi lovers and the people that might respond like, yeah, I'm not a big sushi fan, and the people are just medium. And you immediately know how the room is divided. Now, if you're going to talk about fish, you're going to talk about the sushi cuisine, you know in the future of your story who will be on your side loving sushi. You might be able to use them in future interactions because they're the experts and they really enjoy it. But it can also have value because now you also know what people are like, I don't know if I like sushi. So, very simple example. This is really, really, really simple. But this is a question interaction that adds value to you because you learn something about your audience and you can use that in your future story. This is some simple examples. You can go really far in this, but those are the 2 questions you want to ask yourself before you want to interact. Does it allow my audience to experience or think about the point that I'm trying to make? And the answer that will come, will it give me value as a storyteller? Will I be able to use it in my story, or do I learn something from my audience that I can work with in the meeting, during the presentation, or maybe afterwards? If the answer is yes to one of them, or preferably both, then you got yourself solid interaction. And you can get creative on how you ask it, or you let people do something. Doesn't matter, you can go all out. But then you know that the audience will love it, that it will add value to your story, that you will learn something, and it's a solid way to interact and involve people, engage people into your story. Do that, And you will love engaging with your audience. You will love interacting. Why? Because you know it will no longer be awkward. It will no longer be this big distance you have to go over. Like, please give me an answer. Please give me something I can use. Now you know they will. And once the audience knows you know how to interact and you give them solid questions, solid interactions, they will be eager for the next one, and they want to ask questions and engage because they're like, this is also a value for me as an audience, so yes, I'm gonna dive in and participate. If you like it, like this video, subscribe, tell the world. But for now, you were awesome. I was Marnik van den Broek. Keep standing up for what you believe in and you will stand out. And until next time, bye bye.
Are you listening? Damn.